Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Nostalgia Train book club live discussion. And today we are discussing Eragon. The whole point of the book club is to reread popular YA and middle grade books from our youth and dissect them as writers, see why they were popular, and discuss some of the literary elements. I'm Violet, my channel's Writing Violet, and I will let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
I'm Crystal.
My name is Marta.
I'm Danny.
I wanted to just talk about the background of this book. The fact that Christopher Paolini was only 15 when he wrote this. Then his parents decided to self-publish it. Then he did the promo, and then a year later, after it was self-published, it was traditionally published. And then became a best-selling children's book of that year, 2003. The main thing I heard about it was kind of, generic and poorly written. And I don't necessarily agree with all of those things now, having read it myself. First discussion topic.
I definitely see the Tolkien influence.
For the most part, it's just generic fantasy vibes, like stuff you would find in any fantasy book, but there are some places where it's like, yeah, that was very clearly lifted from like more popular things, like the Urgles and the Orcs.
I've heard many jokes made about rebels.
Because this is a big book, and it felt like the first half was very slowly paced, and then the last section was just fast till the end.
There's a certain spot in the beginning to middle where it's like, this is the biggest slog that I've ever gone through.
The first 100, 200 pages kind of hard to get through, but then after that it just like got really, really interesting really fast.
Like the whole first half of it is like 90% talking and traveling and like 10% action, and then with the second half it like flips.
Sort of magic info dump, training montage, travel, repeat. It's like, okay, we're still doing this? I don't know, I couldn't really firmly understand in the beginning what he was really wanting. It just kind of seemed like, oh, he stumbled upon, the stone, and I don't know, it didn't seem like a lot of stakes to it.
I felt like his motivations weren't really very strong for most of the book. If not all of it, really.
It's like, it's very much, this is my life now.
He's just like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And then 2 chapters later, he's like, I'm going to give my life fighting against evil.
Murtagh, I was surprised he wasn't introduced earlier, because he was introduced quite late in the story. Just because on my cover I have all the characters, the pictures of the movie. I was like, where are all these people? Where are they showing up? I only found out now that the main character's name is in fact Eragon. Yeah, I didn't know that before I picked up the book. I felt really stupid. I thought that was the dragon's name. My bad.
Can we talk about that name for a second, though? Because, like, it's just a dragon with the D changed to an E. And that's just, I can't get past that.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we can all say that Christopher Paolini has a very used thesaurus somewhere. Fantasy tropes, archetypes, and cliches.
Oh, so many.
Yeah, really, there's really a lot.
Oh boy, I love the telepathy.
I loved when him and Saphira would have conversations in front of Brahm that he couldn't hear. Yep. Those were some of my favorite parts of the book.
Here's the boy, here's his dragon, they go on adventures.
It was kind of like, oh, it's not a rock, it's an egg. Like, I don't know, I was like really expecting like, oh, he found the stone, he's calling it a stone, and then, oh, it's a dragon, okay.
I don't know about you, but if I had what I thought was a rock and a dragon came out of it, I'd be panicking.
I would be terrified, even if it is this big.
The baby Saphira is cute. I remember becoming so frustrated with Saphira. She has the personality of a middle school girl. I think in the end she was probably one of my favorite characters in the book.
Like Arya and Nasuada, they don't show up until the last quarter of the book. They're taking her shirt off so they could see all of her cuts and heal her and stuff, and they still kept commenting on how beautiful she was and all this stuff, and it just made me so uncomfortable.
I don't know if you guys picked up this vibe, but when it kind of came to the dragon riding and dragon bonding, some of it felt, I don't know, sexual. I don't know, when he talked about his experience riding Saphira, one quote he said, everything about me was hard. I was like, what the? I would be embarrassed if I wrote that and put it out there as a teenager. I don't know, just sort of sexual inexperience was kind of coming off of that to me. Same again with the Arya passed out dream girl plot.
The moments where Saphira gets jealous about Eragon talking to Arya and other people felt really strange. Because I'm like, she's a a dragon, and like at parts she's like pushed as like this motherly kind of figure to him, and like they're supposed to be like this partnership, but like it went a little too far at times.
And a lot of times with Brahm, I kept writing in my notes like, oh, I know all this other information, but I can't tell you right now because, plot reasons.
Oh, I hated that. It's a cliche.
And then he gives his knowledge to Saphira, and Saphira's like, I can't tell you also because plot reasons. I was like... And Anya didn't see the sexual thing, honestly. Good for you, Anya, lucky.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, and now I can't unsee it.
He's this, like, dumb little farm boy, and then anytime he's taught something, he's instantly a master at it. It happens when he learns to read, and when he's learning sword fighting and magic, like, everything. He's just instantly a master at it.
Language, dialogue, and purple prose.
Very, very heavy thesaurus use. I have to look up the words. It takes me out of the story.
It really bothered me, and it made me feel a bit cringy about it, because I said that I really love this book, and I was like, oh, yikes, this is not as good as I remember.
Unpopular opinion. I really like the language, but that's also because that's kind of how I write. But, like, I will admit there were certain times where I'm like, okay, just get to the point. But for the most part, the dialogue is a different story.
I thought the imagery was really beautiful. I could imagine the landscape very well. The only problem I had with the purple prose was it was in such contrast to the dialogue. It made the bad dialogue stick out even worse. It seemed like a lot of times characters would answer questions that weren't asked yet. Like, this and this is taken care of already, conveniently off page, but the reader and Eragon have not had time to ask those questions yet. High fantasy is so competitive of a genre. If you don't have a little bit of special sauce in your premise, I think it's not going to sell. And just the fact of being sort of a general hero's journey isn't enough today. Yeah, the thing about the ending of this book, it very much gave Frozen 2 vibes. Have you guys seen Frozen 2?
Not yet.
Yes.
It's like, oh, and then she's like, follows this random voices that she hears, and the end of Eragon where he's like, it gave me that vibe, like, I'm going off into the unknown. Facelift, Eragon needed full skill.
I'll admit it's not the best, but it's definitely good beginner fantasy. Like, if you were talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I've never really gotten into fantasy, do you have any recommendations? I feel like this is a good introduction to, like, common themes and tropes. But,
Agreed,
like,
yeah.
it's not something that someone who's extremely well-versed in fantasy would probably love.
Does train come from nostalgia or go to it? Right, in a notebook. That's a great question. I think it's on, like, a loop.
Yeah,
So
it
both?
just circles it.
Yeah. What did Katie say in one of the chats? That she had seen how Eragon had influenced her writing. So it's a shame that she wasn't here because I would have liked to hear her opinion.
Yeah.
We'll just make her share all her thoughts in the Discord.
Yeah.
Yes. Or just leave a very chunky comment on the stream.
Right, Katie,
Yes.
where's your 5-page essay?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Join our Discord when I get a new link for it if you want to come read young adult and middle grade books with us. Yeah, thank you everybody who came along for this stop on the nostalgia train with Eragon.